Hello everyone. But you didn't see this coming. I'm actually making a spoiler corner video of American Ultra. Why? Because the more I reflected on the movie that I saw yesterday, which was American Ultra, the more I reflected on it, the more really it grew on me. I actually really appreciated a lot of different things reflecting on it. Like, of course, in the spoiler corner, what you would talk about are big moments in the movie. Number one thing is that certain things I didn't bring up, intentionally didn't bring up in my main previous review, which will be here on my channel, of course. And the thing is that the thing that was kind of like rooted through this movie through is that through the whole time, Jesse Eisenberg's character essentially was planning to take they were planning to take her to Hawaii essentially to propose, but what really starts off as a novice or something like that is essentially that if he goes out of a border state or anywhere that's outside of his own hometown or something like that, he gets sick, he gets insomnia or something, or kind of weird anxiety. And at first you're just like, oh, okay, that's kind of average. People have that type of problems, but it works up at certain times up. And it's really interesting how it builds it up. But he's essentially, from the very beginning, he's planning to marry her because they've been together for 5-6 years, and that actually had me actually very intrigued. And another thing that I really admire a lot in this movie is that, just reflecting back, looking on their romance, I'm just like, they're actually really well written. The characters are well written, and the romance is well written, and they actually really balance out each other. They balance out each other really, really well. Jesse Eisenberg is more anxiety. He's much more. He's the type of guy essentially who gets a lot more of the heavier baggage on his head because he feels so much responsibility for what he's done, even though he cannot help it at times within the movie. And the whole government's the whole government's trying to work up against him because they used to work for the CIA essentially. I already said that in my main review. Since they were previously working in the CIA, is that they kind of took up, or I wouldn't say they took it a portion, but they kind of wanted him to forget what had happened in the CIA, even though they said he is very much the best of what they made of what they made him out to be. Is they certainly made a certain type of people, and they very much discovered he was the very best of what they could make him out of them, and his girlfriend, played by Kristen Stewart, was the person who was the most trained. Very, very I hate using this term a lot. Very much like the white knight, the person who cares the most in a certain situation. It's oh gosh, she gets really involved, even though they don't go fully into that. Even though I think that's smart on how they play that. Less is more, but they still give you tidbits of information like that. At times, they would address certain things that happened in the past, even though I wouldn't say it's forced, but it does kind of feel I don't know. It's kind of weird like that. But there's some twists and turns that happened in this movie that I actually thought were interesting, the direction, the directional character for Connie Britton's character. If you don't know who Connie Britton is, she's also in American Horror Story, she's fantastic in that TV show, and she's also really, really great in this movie as well. She really plays a pivotal role, actually, and I really dug her character. She's much more the supporting anchor within the second, the first act and the second act. In the second act, she's much more the supporting anchor. She's okay, I will help you trying to get back with her, even though she got taken by the CIA, and how that kind of very much unfolded in the second half of the movie, and how he plans to go back to try to get to her, and just essentially, she's very much, like I said before, she's very much the anchor of the relationship, or the main steel cast in this movie, and I really like her character a lot. And the romance. It may seem really silly because this movie's not getting the best reviews, but I really love the romance. I thought they perfectly, like I said before, they perfectly complemented each other. He's much more anxiety on the moment. He's like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And she's kind of like a few steps behind, but she will always be there to pick him up when he falls. Even though she will have her moments, and she's a lot more courageous and brave than him, even though he's more willing to do certain things, even if he can help it at times. And I think that really does help the romance a lot more. Like, he can't control what he does most of the time, because much more things are much more instinctive or automatic. With him, he's like, oh no, these two guys are coming to me, towards me at a certain scene in the movie, and he's like, basically takes them out in like half a second or like in half a minute, and he's just like, oh my gosh, how do I do that? And I really like that, how they banked off the certain reasons why these certain things would happen to these characters, and I just really admire that. Yeah, I thought the romance, I just can't. That's my problem. My favorite thing is the romance was just pitch perfect, in my opinion. I thought it was pitch perfect. I really loved the romance, and yeah, that for me for this movie was really the biggest thing, and like seeing it from the trailers, you think, oh, Topher Grace will co-balance off of with them, but his character in this movie, he really surprised me. Actually, I thought he played a much more pivotal role than I realized him to be. Like, just like with Connie Britton's character, like Topher Grace was essentially the main villain of this movie, and granted, he was a bit stale at times, and I don't think he was the most developed character ever, but in the end, it's like, yeah, he was a bit too, excuse me, he was a bit too, bland at times. Like, he's like, the commanding asshole general at times, like, okay. And, the surprise, it's not really a cameo, but, yeah, I would say so. It's like the surprise cameo of like Bill Pullman being like the ultimate head of the court type of era person that he is in this movie, and I actually kind of rather enjoyed his surprise moments in the film, like how you see it in the end. Even though I do think anyone could have played his character, and yeah, and like how and like. If you guys want to ask me what was my favorite part of this whole movie, then I would definitely have to say the moment in the end where it's like, you know, they essentially leave the grocery store where like this big final climax is in, and they're both walking out like bruised, bleeding, battered, just basically ruined from what has happened to them. They're like really beat up, and they go with coming out looking like very dreary. And basically, the whole SWAT, the whole police squad, they're basically targeting at them. They have like the laser points on them, and you see Eisenberg's character. He's like kneels down, pulls out the ring, and I'm just like, I can't help but I think that's really just a sweet moment. And yeah, it's like there's emotional moments within this movie. The emotional moments, and well, I need to focus on what's my favorite scene. This is my favorite scene. Like the moment when it's very much silent, he pretty much proposes to her, and it has very low minimum music, like kind of like that, and this kind of cuts away from the music, and you just hear a very soft voice, like, and he's like. He's just like, he has a hand. He's like, she said yes, and it's like it's very much a method to the. To me, it shows a real method to the madness. It's like there's a bunch of this crazy shit that goes on, to crazy everything, but it's like not only is this film gonna need those quiet, slower moments, but it gives the more crazier moments a lot more weight and a lot more emotional comfort, if anything, because like I said before, there's a certain method to the madness, and I don't know how well I can really explain that, but that scene when he proposes to her in the end, I couldn't help but feel, it's one of those moments when I just felt like, oh, like, shit. It's really weird, like this weird stoner action movie made me really love the couple. It just really fucking did, and I don't know why, but I'm really kind of gushing about this film. Is the problems more than I realized that? Yes. Number one, Topher Grace's character is a bit stale, and while I do, whatever, with the ending as a whole, I honestly think I will be very, very, very much being nitpicking. But I do think some of the side characters come off a bit too two-dimensional, particularly the main villain. And some of the writing at times is a bit is ridiculous, and it is not for everyone. But in the end, American Ultra, to me, this may be my 300 Rise of an Empire of this year. It's like the one movie where a lot of people didn't like, but I surprisingly really, really enjoyed it a lot. Even though this movie may not have the worst rating, it just doesn't have that good of a rating on Rotten Tomatoes. It has like a 38%. I look at that and I'm just like, really? Like, it's not perfect. I understand it completely, but I still really enjoyed it. And in the end, that's just my thoughts on the spoilers of this movie, everyone. I really hope you enjoyed my spoiler talk on essentially American Ultra. I really hope at this point, if you still haven't seen this movie, I would like to recommend it. And in the end, I'm actually going to raise the rating a bit. Yeah, I think this is one of the very, very few exceptions where I will raise the rating up, and I'm going to give it a solid 70. And the kind of complaint again is that I do think the first half, while good, it does feel a little slow, and there's a certain point I'm just like, can we please have the action, please? And this is like 30 minutes in. I'm just like, the movie's not that long. It's like an hour and a half, 2 hours long, but it's like 30 minutes in, that's when the action starts. And I'm just like, can we please just get the action started, please? Like, I understand that it kind of feels a bit padding at times. That's still just a very small complaint, but it's a minor complaint, but it's a visible complaint. And in the end, that's my rating. That's my final rating for this movie. I give it just a 70%. And that's, to some people, you may say, oh, Jack, you're being too forgiving. No, I actually really enjoyed this film. It was actually in the end, I just really enjoyed this movie. You may think different, but oh well. In the end, that's my rating for the movie American Ultra, everyone. I really hope you enjoyed it. And in the end, I will see you later today for my review of Hitman Agent 47. Till then, everyone, thank you for watching, and I will see you later with another review. Till then, stay strong. Goodbye.